like to call to order the Town Council meeting of February 16, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Can the clerk please roll call?
Councilor Greathouse, Councilor Steer.
Here.
Councilor Burlingame.
Here.
Councilor Arnold.
Here.
Councilor Worthy.
Here. Would everybody please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, workshop with Budget Board, Budget FY 2023-24 discussion and or action.
Mr. President, if
Yes.
I could make a motion to move an agenda item, item 8C. I can move that to the next agenda item.
Sure, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 8C, what page is that on? Page 10. Give you a shortcut. All right, so pickleball participants requesting for striping, equipment, and storage of GMP discussion interaction. Paula Bissell is here to address the council regarding pickleball accommodations. Paula, step right up. Just give us your address, please.
Hi, I'm 120.
Oh, no, but I'm sorry, I didn't know you were switching it, so it's gonna take me a minute, Jen.
Oh, okay.
Getting your
Okay.
PowerPoint set up.
Okay. Paula Bissell, 120 Welks Lane.
All right, just give us 1 second.
I appreciate that you moved this up. That's great.
Thank you to the Budget Board for signing off on that one as well.
Thank you.
Mind putting Netflix on just for a minute?
How do I get that? That'll just go, right?
Hey.
All right, look at that. Those are some great looking chords. We have that right here in Glocester.
And good looking people, too. So we're a group of Gloucester residents who play pickleball up at GMP, which is 2 tennis courts that have striping to accommodate 2 pickleball courts. The committee that we formed, we're also involved in various parts of our town, birthday cleanups, town food bank, and the emergency response team. So we're really invested in the town. We really do want what's best for the town. So we believe our recommended improvements will have a positive effect. So the overview is that, this would solve the issue of overcrowded pickleball courts and also be able to put beginners and advanced on different courts. We'll go over the benefits to the community and how we see the facility growing and becoming a vital multi-generational recreational asset to the town.
You can just tell her when you need next.
So the recommended improvements, the big thing is additional lines painted at GMP, which would result in 4 pickleball courts. And I want to stress that this would have minimal effect on the existing tennis courts. A lot of us, not myself, a lot of us are tennis players, and we really do respect the fact that tennis players do use the courts. So we worked hard, we went around the state looking at other options, how different towns did it, And I think we really have come up with something really great. The other thing we would need would be 2 additional portable nets that we would need access to 7 days a week, and a storage container to store those in. Signage, just to have good etiquette. You know, right now the sign is up there that there's 1 hour of play if somebody is waiting. And we've always respected that if somebody else showed up. Squeegees, brooms, you know, those are nice to have, and a backboard would be fantastic.
What was that last thing called?
Squeegees and a backboard.
Backboard.
Backboard. So Gloucester's pickleball community is growing fast. We started with 6 players out of the senior center, and it's grown to over 100 players. And that's only word of mouth, and we don't tell people about it because it's already too crowded. So if we wanted to grow this, we could explode it. We really could, but it's kind of build it and they will come. You know, we went over before how pickleball has grown. It started in the west, it went down south, and it's finally coming to New England. And it's growing exponentially. It's huge. So it's accessible, it's inclusive. Anybody of any age, sex, background can play. The whole family can play. It's really easy to learn, and it's affordable. A family can get into it with very low cost. Skill and strategy can overcome sheer athletic talent. We have 90-year-olds out there playing that are pretty awesome. It meets the keys to successful aging. It improves emotional well-being. It exercises the mind as well as the body, and it provides opportunities for social interaction. Benefits for younger players, it's an inexpensive way to get kids outside. There's no cost involved once you buy a paddle. It boosts self-esteem, it provides healthy social activity, and of course it's a better alternative to video games. So this is just a sampling of pickleball courts available in Rhode Island and nearby Connecticut. You know, I don't have to read these to you. You can see that each town has some courts, and many are in the process of putting in more courts. Some are dedicated pickleball courts where the net is actually a pickleball net instead of the tennis courts, but many of these are tennis courts that have been repurposed into pickleball courts. So this is an important slide. The top green thing shows one tennis court, and the white lines are the tennis court. The orange lines in the middle are what lines are there now for pickleball. And we use a tennis net, which is actually 2 inches too high to play pickleball with. So you hear a lot of swearing. If we only had pickleball nets, that would have gone over. So what we're looking to do is just these yellow lines on that top slide, just an extension of the existing lines. So it's clean, it's neat, and it has minimal disruption to the tennis courts. The bottom slide shows it all in one color, which is how it would be. So if somebody showed up and just wanted to play pickleball without using the portable nets, they could. But now when a group comes, which we've had like up to 24 at a time, and there's only 4 on the court at a time, you could put 4 on each side, and then times 2. So we could accommodate a lot more players. On the right side is what the 2 tennis courts and the 2 pickleball courts with the lines extended would look like. So the new courts would allow us to separate levels of play. It's frustrating when you have an advanced player and a beginner. It's frustrating for both parties. What a lot of places do when they have 4 courts or 3 courts, they'll do a challenge court, which only the better players would want to play at. The new people can go in and take their turn, but it would just create a better atmosphere for everybody involved. And then we could have some tournaments as well, which would be really fun. You know, we talked about town council versus the police, or Smithfield versus Burrville.
That's why Joe had surgery. He wants to,
Played in Florida in April, so that's the game.
All right, all right. So the different people in the group went out and talked to other towns. They got the prices. The lines were done for $250 a quart in Smithfield. And they did exactly what we did, just extending the line. So it was $250 a quart, so $1,000 total. 2 portable nets, you know, the prices vary. We didn't put the most expensive ones in there, which are the best ones. They're $2,200. And we realized that, you know, we can have fun with these kind of nets. We can really do this. Storage container to store the nets, $600 to $1,300. The signage, there is some signage up there, but it would be nice if it was brighter and bolder and bigger. Squeegees, $68, and a backboard, $300 estimate. So estimated total cost, $1,000 to $3,600. You know, the town bought us two nets, but they really can't be used because we don't have lines, and we really don't have the nets. They were given to us for 6 weeks, and then they're taken away. And you know, we play year round. If the temperature's over 40, we're out there, we're playing. So summary, the 4 courts would provide an affordable intergenerational opportunity. It's an inclusive sport. When somebody shows up that doesn't know how to play, one of us will have an extra paddle and we'll bring that person right in and we'll get them playing really quick. That's the culture of pickleball throughout the country. I've shown up on a court that I don't know anybody and they're like, oh, this is how we do it here. We line up the paddles and you're on the court. It's so inclusive. It's just a wonderful kind of joining together of people of all different backgrounds. And it would possibly bring new people into town. There's economic opportunities. People might want to go out for lunch afterwards, shop at Dino's, stop at Christie's, Gibson's. Anyways, it would enhance our town's image as an active and forward-thinking community in which to live, work, and play. So in conclusion, I just say that the bang for the buck on this is huge. So this is a group, this was a little tournament that we did last year, just casual. We had to limit it to that many people because of only having 2 courts. We could have easily had double the amount of people. I think there's a couple more, but just some pictures, action shots. Oh yeah, this is good. So we actually went out on like a 35-degree day and used some painter's tape to create what would work. And we tried all different ways. The one on the top shows the blue painter's tape extending off of the lines with a portable net in the middle. The one on the bottom left, it's a concave picture, so it's kind of hard to read, but it just shows how it uses up the whole side of one side of the tennis court, going right up to the back. So we wouldn't be chasing balls around as much. It just has so many benefits. The top right picture just shows the extension of the lines. And if we could do this, it would be all the same color. It wouldn't be blue, yellow, and white. We'd want it kind of neat looking. So we're hoping the town council will agree with our short-term recommendations that could be put in place for this spring. We'd also like to consider having a grant to get regulation pickleball courts. You know, I know Windsor's been talked about. We're very open to the idea of Windsor. As it is now, though, it doesn't work. There's grass growing up in it. The ball would be all wonky. It's kind of unplayable. But in the future, I think that if money wanted, if the grant could be gotten, I think it would be a wonderful addition. Or what, but we are open to that. I just want to make that clear.
Paul, thank you very much for coming and presenting tonight.
Okay, do you have any, can you ask questions?
Yep, I was just going to open up. I know Walt had his hand up for a question. Go ahead, Walt.
Mr. President, before any discussion,
Yep.
I have to admit I'm a member of this illustrious group, so that if there are any legal questions, I would have to recuse and defer.
Is that why you're here tonight? Is that?
We're going to have to talk to David about this. Go ahead, Walt.
No, it was a simple question. I probably should know this, but a backboard. What is a backboard?
Oh, so I guess tennis players have always used them, and it's just up against the fence, and so I come to play, and there's nobody to play with. I can practice. So
Oh,
you
so
practice. It's like a ping pong board that the bat comes up,
Okay.
and you play off the board. Yeah, so it's a good place to do drills. Situate has one that, it's just basically a piece of plywood.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Any other questions?
You said you use the nets 6 weeks a year?
Well, that was last summer was the first time we got the nets.
Okay. Are you gonna have access to them for a longer period of time this year?
It's up to the recreation director.
Okay.
That was,
So the nets weren't being stored down at GMP, somebody was, taking care of them, if you will, or were they
Yes.
being stored at GMP during that 6-week period?
I was gone all summer. They were not being
So,
stored there.
okay, so somebody from your group was taking care of them, taking
Taking
them
care of
home,
them.
bringing them back when they needed to be used.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice to have them there in a locked box. And I know there's discussion of like, well, what if somebody shows up that doesn't have the combination to the box? But, if this comes through, we can talk about that and what other towns have done to make that work, to make it fair to all citizens, not just this group.
Seems like it wouldn't take a lot to extend the period of time at the minimum that you had access to the nets.
365 days would be great.
Hey, days like today, I guess that's
There were
the
eight
real
of, there
deal.
were 8 of us out there today. Yep.
Don't have anything else?
Okay, so I think it's a lot of bang for your buck. I really do. That's all I have to say.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
presentation. All right, we're gonna go back to the front of the script here. We're gonna go to workshop with budget board, budget FY 2023-24 discussion interaction. Council typically meets with the budget board prior to the budget board's final work on their budget proposal. It's time for council to express any areas of budget concern for goals, so that the budget board is aware of them beforehand with the council would like to, the board to consider when preparing the proposed budget. Adam, would you like to introduce your members for the record?
Sure. Mr. President, good evening, everybody. Happy to have with us this evening members of the Budget Board. Chair Christy Benoyer, Member Henry Kaczynski, Maureen McNamara, Cassandra Barone, and Member Mike Morgan, Vice President Jake Desolitz, and Member Mike Robinson couldn't be here tonight, but they extend their regards to the council. I want to take a moment briefly just to thank the Budget Board for all their time and effort. We've been meeting, weekly, Mondays and Wednesdays, reviewing the budget requests and meeting with department heads and boards and commissions and entities requesting funding from the town. And that's a lot of work, and it's a lot of time. It's two meetings a week, and so I appreciate their thoughtful questions and their time and their effort, and as I know the council does. I have to say, and I think the budget board will agree with me on this, and please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of the requests that have come in so far, everybody has been very consistent in terms of trying to keep things as close to what was approved in fiscal '23 wherever possible, and even in some cases looking for reductions in spending savings or level funding. So I, again, appreciate that. And then we have capital requests, which again, nothing off the top outrageous, it seems to be, in my opinion.
Thank you.
So I'm happy to turn it over to the council for any specific direction and questions, and open it up to the budget board. I know just wanted to set the scene, and I know this is supposed to be an interactive forum, so I'll turn it over to the council.
So we can either express our questions, or we can let them have, does anybody have a?
I don't really have a specific question, but just a kind of overall feel for what I'm looking at this year's budget, if that's okay to start with. Or
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, first of all, I want to thank you all, because I know you do put a lot of time into this, and I want to thank you all for that, because obviously it's extremely important to the town. So, I guess, and it sounds like in past years, you stuck to this, is a couple things. One is, I'm really focused on the need to haves, right? What do we really need to have for this year to make sure the town runs where the way it needs to be, and also looking towards the future a little bit too, with need to haves. The nice to haves, they're just that. You know, maybe there'll be an opportunity for some of those to be in the budget, but the other point I want to make is, and you're aware of this as well, is that, you know, we're in a situation where we had a level funding of last year. So we're in an inflationary period. We're also trying to kind of move forward. For lack of a term, we're trying to make up for a year as well in the budget. So I know you're taking that into account, but those are the things that I'm thinking about looking at this year's budget. So again, nothing in particular, but kind of the high level view of the overall budget. So that's just my thoughts.
Well, for me, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, because I've seen a lot of you at these meetings, and you guys put in a ton of time and take this very seriously. So appreciate all your efforts, and so I think, you know, to echo what Walt was saying, you know, there is a need to have. There's nothing we can do about it. Electricity, oil, and again, one of the things, and you know, we talk about this specifically with paving, paving's an example, right? So one of the things is if there's something you can technically put off, right, are you creating a bigger, more expensive problem in the future? So it's kind of it is kind of like the three columns, if you will, of need, want, and nice to have, and I think, you know, everybody up here is, you know, life is more expensive for all of us, so we're trying to, you know, you know, I think it's, and with the capital requests, I'm aware of virtually all of them that have been made. I think in some circumstances, it's you know, you prioritize, and then, you know, we kind of put our heads together and see where the numbers fall and that kind of thing. And, you know, if I could have one or two of these, which would it be, a choice? And then I guess the other thing is, you know, and I know you guys look at it, and a perfect example would be a vehicle. Are we spending more money on maintenance or this or that, the other? Sometimes spending a little more upfront saves you in the long run. So I know you guys are all aware of that. So when I look at these things, and of course the other thing is plugging something new in, is that now turn into a new line item that will be ever with us and we can't undo. So that is, you know, obviously that's something we got to think about years down the road, you know. So that's just my general 2 cents. I don't know if we should be getting into specific capital requests, or we should have, you know, if you guys want to share any highlights with us. I don't know. Anyone?
I don't know if we have a specific one, but you mentioned paving, and that's something that the town has to really focus on, because we've been, every year we set aside extra money for that, but if we don't really keep an eye on that, we're going to be going out the barn. Maybe we'll do that anyway. I don't know. That's something I hope we don't have to do, but that's something we do have to focus on, because I know Gary's here. We did a large bond before I was here, and you know, the time's coming due again to redo a lot of those roads. So.
A note on paving, we did have a request from the DPW director this year to keep on track with the paving. Not a lot was able to be accomplished with respect to paving. I don't mean to budget situation from last year. Some paving got done, that was funded through American Rescue Plan funding approved by the council. So a little bit got done. A lot of that was more drainage, paving. Paving is the last step of it all. But the money that was approved in the fiscal '23 budget, 800K, none of that work was able to be touched, because by the time everything was said and done again with '23, the paving season was about to be over for '22. So I'm sure Gary will be, once the weather pops, it seems like it's popping today, but you know, it's closer to where it's safe to pave, that'll start, some of that will start to get used up. What I wanted to relate to the council, that in the governor's proposed budget for fiscal '24 is a matching program for infrastructure projects, specifically paving. So, given that we have a chunk of change set aside, and should we add to that with the fiscal '24 funding, we can let, and that, I'm assuming that program gets approved in the governor's budget, which I'm hearing is possible, we can leverage that. That's something we can certainly look to leverage.
Adam, quick question on that, and I know it's sort of speculation because nothing's passed right now. You know, with that matching funds for the paving, was there talk of a cap? You know, was or is
I haven't read this specifically. I was on a call with the League of Cities and Towns where this was mentioned. There was a high-level review of the budget when it was first released. My understanding is it's a 25% match, which we could use the capital that we've already set aside.
25% from?
We would have to contribute at least 25%.
We would be on the 25.
Yeah, as I understand.
That's the better side.
But I can certainly check into the particulars of that, because if that's something perhaps the council might promote as the budget process moves through the state. Just wanted to mention that up while paving was on the topic.
Great. I would ask any member of the budget board, was there something you all collectively felt, you know, last year we knew what happened, that was in sort of proposal number one that didn't take place. Do you see a priority that we may be overlooking, you know, that was in the first proposed budget that, you know, that was eliminated for the budget that ultimately passed? For any member.
For anything that was omitted?
For anything that was in the first proposed budget that you guys felt like was a priority for the town that did not take place in the budget that passed. Anything that jumps out at you that, well, we gotta move this right up to the top of the list?
You know, you were there, we had a lot of discussions around the police budget, and I think that's the thing that really jumps out at us. You know, we can begin to tell some horror stories, and you don't wanna do that.
Yeah.
And I would like to say, and I think we all feel this way, department heads, for the most part, not across the board, for the most part, made our lives somewhat easy, because they were so sensitive to all of that, that there was nothing outrageous there.
Yep.
Everyone that came before us, I thought, gave an excellent presentation. Well explained, very well done. I would say DPW trucks would be on my mind. When we went last year to see them, they're all rusted. Get the guys some trucks that they need.
Those walkthroughs can be eye-opening for sure, of both of the facilities you just mentioned. And I will agree that the requests that were made were extremely respectful and
I got a comment, please. So I'd like Adam maybe to explain, on the previous budget, I believe that we had appropriated 2 police cars under the AARP money, and it seems as though that was removed. So I'm not sure, so Adam should probably clear this up just to make sure, because, so my point being that the more money we use on things that need to be done yearly from ARPA, the better. So I would ask the council to try to maximize that the ARPA money, especially in, big expenses like police cars, which we know we're gonna have 1 to 2 every year. So, and what I was told originally, and this may have changed, but that, we could buy several cars and do that over several years. So getting that future purchase done now with this money. So I guess it's a matter of priority on where you want to spend that ARPA money. And I think along the lines of purchasing, big ticket items like the cars, with, anything in the budget that's similar to that we should concentrate on doing those issues that we're gonna have to pay for long term. So, but maybe you could clear
Sure.
that up.
With respect to the 2 police cars, the council did approve in fiscal '23 to purchase 2 police cars. And they're in the process, I think we received one, it's on the road now, and the other we haven't received yet.
No,
The car's at the shop for the outfit.
It's upfitting right
The
now.
outfit, that's not steel second, that's the outfit, that's the sign for outfit. So, we're waiting, but so those are in process, we're just waiting on that second vehicle.
And those were purchased with the ARPA funds?
Correct, approved by council in fiscal '23. To Member Morgan's point, though, there was some consensus from the budget board to again, maximize that with respect to police cars. And I think there's an opportunity for that in my director's report. I've been mentioning to the council, there's an opportunity to, I think, take another pass through ARPA funding, provide the council with that schedule where we're at in terms of spending there. But I think there's a lot of projects where just for changes in plans or there hasn't been any activity where some of that money could be reallocated, you free a bit of that up, and then in fiscal '24, we still have the opportunity to force some of those one-time expenses that are pretty big chunks of cash to use ARPA money for that. And we're still within the time frame to reallocate, because this coming to a point where you're not gonna be able to do that. Whatever you have on the books that's approved, you're gonna see that through.
What's the drop dead date on that?
I checked on this the other day. I could actually, I pulled it up on my phone quickly.
It's next year though, right? It's next year though, right?
It's next year,
We had
yeah.
a 3-year window, I believe,
Yeah.
for it to be,
Committed to.
was it committed or
No,
spent? That's what I couldn't remember.
June 24.
Remember, it was 3 budget cycles. I know I have this written down at my desk.
It's all right.
Until
I would
December
not wait to
31st,
jump
2024 to
that.
obligate.
What is it?
December 31, 2024 to obligate.
To obligate,
Yes.
okay?
Thank you.
Well, that's good, because if you order a truck, you might wait 2 calendar years for it, so.
Right.
Okay.
Changing of the guard at this point. Silently, thank you.
Your pickleball friends already left.
What am I gonna do now?
He did what he needed to do.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. What at St. Louis?
Was there any other big ticket items that you felt like you need to bring up?
No, I think we have a pretty good handle on what there's pretty much a consensus on most of the issues. We continue to go through that process, and I had just, in my mind, I didn't know it had to be spent by a time certain. I thought we could just commit to, say, 6 or 10 police vehicles, and then, have that for the next 5 or 6 years
Right.
covered. So, I mean, that changes things because you got drop dead time, so.
Thank you.
Well, if it's obligated by 2024, it's not spent, so you at least got next year, and then possibly the one after. So from what I see here, it looks like it's basically a flattish budget.
That's gonna be challenging, with respect to, payroll increases, with collective bargaining, unions, and, certain inflationary increases that we're just not gonna be able to outrun with respect to electricity, some oil, and also the elementary schools. Not to cause any specific concern, but with respect to the elementary schools, for the past 3 years, they've in effect been level funded from the town's contribution, the local contribution. And that's been made possible by using fund balance. And that, again, that can't continue in perpetuity, so.
Because I thought we were caught up with that, Adam.
I'm sorry?
Last cycle, I thought we caught up and there should have been an increase, right? I thought we did get an increase, not this last year, but the year before.
Not the region, I'm talking about the Gloucester Elementary Schools.
Yeah, I thought
For the
we-
past 3 years, the local appropriation's been $7.1 million. They've been getting the difference, the amount over that in terms of the spend has been coming from various set-aside accounts, but we can't
That's
continue,
what it was, yeah.
can't continue hitting those, and not refunding them at the same rate. So, working with Superintendent Dubois and the rest of the staff in terms of sharpening the pencil and getting things where they need to line up. But again, payroll increases there, inflationary increases with respect to oil, electricity. There's just all the pressures that folks are feeling in their homes and businesses. The town's not immune from those either. And everybody does a great job of making sure lights are off and things like that. We can only do so much of that when the cost is going up.
And actually with the schools, that kind of drives something too. Do we have a preliminary feeling of what the region's gonna bring to us this year?
Yes.
Because we have no control over that, so that impacts us.
Correct. The meeting with the regional school department was, in my opinion, was a great meeting. It seems that the increase, based on the preliminary figures I reviewed, draft form, so I'm not aware of any changes to that, but they're coming from enrollment. We're actually getting the benefit, and it's a $25,000 reduction based on changes swinging the debt service. But it's not an increase in operational spend or capital that's driving the increase we're looking at. The town of Gloucester is looking at this year, it's enrollment. And that's done as of the October census date, and those numbers are what they are.
Which brings me to my next point. We do have money set aside
Yes, we do.
to cover those things
$215,000.
that we saw that.
Yeah.
So what I would hope is that somewhere in our going forward that we look to replenish that too. Look for how do we replenish that, because Glocester has weathered, well, I don't think weathered, they've absorbed that over the last 3 years, a very large number, and it was our turn, it was eventually it was gonna happen. And
Right.
that's gonna go back and forth, so we wanna be able to plan ahead like we have been able to have that money set aside, so
Just
thinking
move that
about
out.
how we can do that too.
There was an excellent recommendation that maybe work with Glocester to alleviate some of the different up and down that we have every 2 years. So I sit at those meetings and either we're getting hit one year and Gloucester's getting hit the next year, and it flops back and forth. Maybe do something like what they mentioned Exeter has done with their neighboring towns, and worked it out with the town council and government to maybe not take a huge hit, maybe level it off and not do it by enrollment.
I think we looked at that when I was on the school committee, but it's in the law, the charter.
You have to, it requires state legislation,
We have to have them change.
which is a heavy lift.
At the State House.
So,
That's the only way we can do that.
It's a great idea, but we in a sense, accomplished this. This occurred to me afterwards, I don't wanna take total credit for it, but, we're in a sense smoothing this out now by, to Councilor Steer's point, the set-aside that the town's been maintaining. So we put money aside for these rainy days when we're getting hit from an increase from the regional school district, and that's our smoothing effect. So in the short term, at least, we have that mechanism. If that's something the council wants to entertain, go through the process, state legislation, come out with some other way to have it be smooth from a legislative point of view, that's obviously up to you all, but at least in the meantime.
Almost
we have
doing
some-
it in-house without involving anybody else is with
Yeah,
with
that's
the
one way to look at
set-aside.
it. Yeah, but again, that's up to us, we need to execute there, so.
But my point too is that it's not to cover operational expenses. This is the enrollment back and forth, goes back and
Right.
forth. So that's what my thought was.
Yep.
And what we've done over the years.
Yeah, that caused the swing, and then the debt service with the value of the towns caused the swing.
personally. Of course, I've spent a lot of time with you guys on Mondays and Wednesdays this year.
I'm just kind of clicking through right now, see if anything pops up.
Anything else we haven't discussed?
I'm just thinking, sort of jumping ahead, I think it would be great if the budget board and the council work together proactively to develop a communications plan beforehand this year. So that we're all on the same page.
Oh,
about how
yes.
and what we communicate.
That's
How
a
we get the message out?
terrific
Yes.
idea.
I think we
How
learned a
to
lesson.
share
Yeah,
how and why and
exactly,
all that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, you know, even if we have to formalize that
Yeah,
as an agenda item in the future before the referendum,
yeah.
that's a great idea. You know, I think, you know, in hindsight of last year, certainly communicating that there is an opportunity to get out and vote. We saw the poll numbers and how they went up, you know, 4 or 5x from round one, and I'd like to see round two numbers at the one and only round this year. But you know, it'd be great to get everybody in the community more involved. And you know, we were, you know, in the past, and we were just discussing this. You know, there were times when you would get in a room, so just like the school does, you know, and vote in the auditorium and that kind of thing. And I think one of the things we did better in round two is I think some people might not have turned out in round one because they thought it was going to be a big commitment as part of their day, and they're going to be sitting in a 4-hour meeting versus going to cast their votes. So, but yeah, I think we need to, you know, get on page there. Once you have your final recommendations, and you know, we've sort of gone through that, et cetera, to get the word out.
Yeah, once we finalize it to go to the voters, we need to do a much better job than that. But, you know, I will say that that vote, we needed to reach 8 more people with a true story of what was going on. You know, it was a normal turnout. We usually have about 200 people that show up to vote on the budget, and you know, we fell 7 votes short. Now, to Steve's point, I would love every year to have 400, 500, 600 people show up to vote. They're paying for this. Is the budget. This is what they're gonna have to pay for taxes. But you know, you kind of see that apathy everywhere. So I remember when we had the public hearings, there'd be times we had to call people because we needed enough people for a quorum, 25 people to be able to vote on the budget. So I mean, you can vote the pros and cons of each, but we do need to do a better job of communication. That's the bottom line.
So obviously, one of the big ticket items every year is snow removal with storms, and hopefully, I know, no March big storms. So is that, you know, what we didn't have this year going into next year? Is that why we have a pretty good savings there?
In the fiscal '23 budget, the council approved snow removal expense, and when you say snow removal, President Worthy, you're taking salt and sand.
Yeah.
Because we budget for the overtime, if there's overtime for the guys coming out to plow. The amount that we spend on salt and sand, I pay them 4 times, you know, because it's unbelievable. We see some of these invoices. That stuff is very expensive.
Right.
And in trying to trim down the fiscal '23 budget to get it to approved fiscal '22 levels, which was what direction the council had given me at the time, and the budget board charged us with in order to go for referendum number 2, council approved the purchase of the salt and sand out of ARPA funds. So again, depending on how much we expend, knock on wood through, you know, the rest
I
of
think that number was 90.
I'm sorry?
90,000.
It's on the spreadsheet.
Right, yeah.
It was more than that. It was 140, right?
Yeah, 70.
70?
I'm looking at
but in any event, it was, whatever was for, salt and sand,
35 and 35.
yes, was funded out of ARPA. I didn't bring a copy of the sheet with me. Anyway, so there's an opportunity, depending on what happens, and if there's a reallocation, to do that again in '24. I might recommend a combination of that, try to work some of that back into the general funded budget, because again, the ARPA funding's not gonna be here forever.
Yep.
So it might be, again, smoothing it out and working some of that back in, because it's gonna have to come back in eventually. You'd rather do that over time as opposed to taking a smack in 1 year.
Now, the new contracts, it looks like highway wages are going up another 71,000 proposed for 2023, 71,666, is that right?
I'm not sure what you're looking at, President Worthy. I'm sorry?
He's looking at the current.
The current budget, yeah,
Yeah.
so we're actually just putting the finishing touches on the model for fiscal '24,
Okay.
and we'll have that to the budget board, in advance of our scheduled meeting for next Wednesday.
Right, okay.
That's why we had to cancel the meeting last night, there was nothing to review, yeah, we're wrapping up the audit this week, and that's sucking all the oxygen out of the room, so that'll be issued by tomorrow,
Okay.
great news, but the budget model with the format that everybody's used to looking at it in, it's an Excel document, it's labor intensive to update that, you wanna make sure all the cell references are correct, and that's what we're working on, now, is getting those increases for fiscal '24 for the collective bargaining, units, and then, other increases there with the payroll.
Okay.
Health and dental, things like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Adam.
All right, anybody have any more questions? All right, I guess we'll take a 5-minute break for starting all.
Thank you so much, guys, for
Yeah,
being
thank you.
here and all the time
Thank
you've
you
put
very
into
much.
this. I shut this.
Not at this point.
All right, welcome back. We are now in open forum for agenda items.
Anybody?
Oh, no.
Nope.
No. No one signed up.
No one signed up? All right, consent items, discussion, interaction, approval of town council minutes, regular meeting of February 2nd, 2023. B, tax assessors additions and abatements, January 2023. Finance director report, January 2023. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the town council minutes of February 2nd, 2023. Approve the abatement to the 2022 tax roll in the amount of $4,486.86. The abatement to the 2019 tax roll in the amount of $224.84. No additions to the 2022 tax roll, and to accept the finance director's report for January 2023.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Unfinished business, ratification of agreement between the town of Gloucester, RI Laborers District Council on behalf of local union 1322 of the Laborers International Union of North America, AFL-CIO, effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. Police Department civilian employees.
I'd like to move, motion to move item 7A to ratification of agreement, police department civilian employees to after item 15.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Boards and commissions appointments terms to run concurrent with the town council discussion interaction. Economic Development Commission, the chair has recommended 2 candidates that recently filled the talent bank. Position number 3, 2-year term to expire 1/2025. I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Anthony Angelone to position number 3, Economic Development Commission, for a 2-year term to expire 1/2025.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Position number 6, 2-year term to expire 1/2025. I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Melissa Wright to position number 6, Economic Development Commission, for a 2-year term to expire 1/2025.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome. Let's see. B, Recreation Commission, position number 4, 2-year term to expire 12/24. The chair does not have any recommendations at this time. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to table the appointment to position number 4 to the Recreation Commission for a 2-year term to expire 1/2024.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Code of Ordinance forming cannabis land use regulations and amendments to code, discussion and interaction. Council has a draft ordinance regulating retail sales of cannabis. The clerk has outlined that draft as follows. The basic language used by North Smithfield was used to formulate the draft of Gloucester's zoning chapter. There are only 2 zoning districts recommended in Gloucester, industrial and B2, which is highway commercial. Also at first passed the ability to allow testing facilities were left out of land uses. Obtaining information about these facilities and researching to find out the financial benefit to the town. It appears these facilities are labs similar to blood draw labs. No sales occur at these sites. I'll forward the pros and cons for council's consideration. Council can review and send the clerk recommendations to incorporate into the draft. When all councilors are comfortable with the document going forward, we can set up a first reading, and the process will continue going forward. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to table item C, Code of Ordinance forming cannabis land use regulations and amendments to code.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Just one question. Should we, to a time certain, or just tabling as it is right now?
This is fine, you can table this, it's not even first reading.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, because council wanted to expedite an ordinance, regulate public use under new business as a first reading document for public use of cannabis and penalties for violations of the proposed public use ordinance. Discussion. Electric rate renewal, discussion, interaction. Adam?
Yes, good evening again, council. Past couple meetings, I've been trying to keep the council up to date about this item and what I'm gonna ask you to do tonight, which is to renew with our current power vendor, Power Options. It's a consortium that we've purchased our power through previously, and our current contract is expiring at the end of this calendar year. If we lock in now for 2 years, we're essentially getting that budget security that the town has sought previously. The bad news is that we're coming off of an agreement that is at 6 cents per kilowatt hour. And the cost per kilowatt hour that I've been tracking for the last month and a half is about 5 cents above that. And working in the office to determine the exact budgetary impact, because I think there's some move to slide some money from certain electrical accounts in one building to another, or one budget to another, to absorb some of that, but in all instances, we're not going to be able to. Finance office does a great job of tracking by building, by bill, but by month, the kilowatt hour readings, the cost, for both if we were not on the contract and then if we were on the contract. So that way we have this ready to go to respond to a public information request, or also use in a budgeting exercise. Right now, I had a Zoom call earlier today with reps from Power Options, and they're not in the business of giving stock quotes or any sort of financial advice. However, they are tracking this pricing too, and they seem to agree with my gut sense, based on watching this, that we're at the bottom. If we're not at the bottom, we're darn near close. They also recommended, if you're going to lock in for 2 years. The pricing is higher per kilowatt hour if you only go for 1 year, and then you have to do this again, and the pricing may be maybe even higher. Why would it be even higher next year as opposed to now? That's because I mentioned this previously. In Freeport, I think it's Alabama, somewhere down south. There's a terminal that's been offline. This terminal doesn't send gas up here; it sends it overseas. So that would take from the available supply that would be able to otherwise come up here and provide fuel to the power stations that provide electricity to us. Additionally, this is it's already been mentioned enough tonight. I don't want to ruin the mild winter, but yes, it's been one so far. So again, some savings there. The demand on the grid is not as much as it would be. And as we creep towards the spring, we start to switch towards cooling and those demands, and historically tracking the cost per kilowatt hour, it just generally rises. So, not to beat a dead horse, but I'm just trying to illustrate for you all that the timing is right, I think, now to lock in for the pricing to adjust in December. That pricing adjustment will occur when the meter readings eventually happen throughout that month at the various locations throughout town.
Well, do they offer programs for municipalities and schools for solar on the buildings that can possibly bring that rate down?
That's a great segue, because there is an opportunity, and the town hall and the finance office has been getting a lot of solicitations for community solar, also known as purchasing net metering credits. And Power Options has one of these plans available, and I've spoken to a lot of these companies that have been soliciting for our business, and this is the best deal by far. The reason why, if this is something that the council would like to consider, separate from the rate renewal, my recommendation is that we look to lock in soon, and at or below 12 cents a kilowatt hour, because the pricing is daily, comes in daily. But with respect to solar, to your question, President Worthy, these net metering credits, the program through Power Options, is essentially you buy $1 worth of power for 65 cents. And so I would work with representative from Power Options, review the data that we've been tracking. We already have it built out in the finance office, that workbook I was telling you about, the usage, and the kilowatt hours by month. And they recommend purchasing enough credits to cover 90% of that usage. Because you don't want to end up in a situation where you have too many credits, because you can't get rid of them. So you got to plan that out. The other drawback is you lock in for 20 years. But you're saving, you're buying the power for pennies on the dollar. So in order to reduce the impact of a possible doubling the rate here, we're going from 6 cents possibly to 12. I'm hoping we can get down to 11 cents per kilowatt hour. We could offset some of that by looking into these net metering credits. Power Options still has availability in their program. A lot of other communities have taken advantage of this.
We did that at the
It's
region,
an option.
so the regions, we did it.
Yeah, I thought I heard that happened up at the region, yeah.
Did you find it successful?
There was a savings the way it was presented to us, so
So yes.
I wasn't going for the bills, but yes, it was successful.
Yeah.
Unless we plan on dramatically, merge those two words. Unless we plan on drastically reducing the energy consumption in these buildings, the buildings the town owns going forward. And again, we're very good about keeping lights off, people not in rooms, things like that, auto sensing fixtures where possible, or installing solar on everything, right, going through that. This might be something to consider, again, to offset. But again, it's 20 years. There is an option to get out of it. If for some reason we're in a situation where we have too many credits, you just have to give it 2-year notice. A lot of these other plans, the rebate is not as high, and there's no, once you're in, you're in.
So who, if we wanted to get a presentation, would we have to vote on having somebody come in for a presentation?
They would come in, wouldn't they?
They'd be available to come in, but in terms of renewing, if you'd like to hear more from them, I could certainly set that up.
We're gonna have to lock in though until that
I think
presentation.
timing's of the essence here.
Right.
I don't know if we have another 2 weeks. I don't mean to cause a sense of urgency.
Well, I don't think we could be ready to make a decision in 2 weeks on this other thing anyway.
Correct, yeah.
On the net metering credits, correct.
So,
that would be separate and aside. I think the focus, and what I wanted to bring to you tonight is either giving myself authorization to sign an agreement at 12 cents or below, or the town council president, either or. I'm happy to do it with the council's authorization if that's what you want to do, or I could certainly set it up so that Council President Worthy gets the email and signs off on it.
Okay.
I don't think the pricing is going to get it any more advantageous than it is, and if it does, it's fractions of a penny.
what's the difference between the 1-year lock and the 2?
It's about 0.002 cents.
That's huge.
But to go for again in 1 year, we'd be having to look at locking in again, and maybe
That
we're
could
at
be
15 cents because of, I mentioned that Freeport situation, that
Right.
terminal's coming back online. There was one other thing too that was driving the increase forecast for next year. Oh, there's a couple more LNG gas facilities coming online, but they're like Freeport. They're not looking to send it up here to us. They're exporting this stuff overseas, further reducing the supply. So that doesn't help us out any at all up here.
And the other thing you gotta think about too, what's going on with our friends at the State House, how they're moving towards eliminate a lot of fossil fuels, which means it's gonna be more of a demand on our electric grid, and it'll cost more as well, so. You know, that's another factor you have to take account of.
Want to make a motion? Lock that in?
Thanks, Adam.
You're welcome.
To authorize the town council president to sign a 2-year, the name of the company?
Power options?
Power options, yes, thank you.
Can we put, Adam, do you feel confident with that amount?
No more than 12 cent,
I do, Madam Clerk, and I plan on tomorrow morning, first thing I do after I log in is to send a message off to our rep at Power Options and looking to go with the day's executable price, which I don't anticipate being more than 12 cents based on what I've been tracking the last month and a half.
okay? So I'll make a motion to authorize our finance director to lock in at a rate of no more than 12 cents per kilowatt.
Just so we're covered, could we go to 12.5 cents? If it's .1 tomorrow, 12.1, Madam Clerk brings up a great point. With my luck, that's exactly what would happen. I'd get that between the eyes tomorrow. So if we could go to 12.5, thank you.
Okay, I'll rescind and make a motion to authorize our finance director to lock in for 2 years with Power Options at a rate of no more than 12.5 cents per kilowatt hour.
Well, yeah, and council president,
To be signed by the council president.
the agreement to be signed by, yeah.
Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Adam.
Would be nice to learn more about this long-term
So,
lock or whatnot. It'd be nice to put that on
Yeah,
the
there's a-
radar.
Big presentation they did at the region for us. There's a couple companies that presented to us. This was a couple of years ago. And you bought some credits from a solar farm that they were just putting up down in South Carolina somewhere.
You want to get on the horn, when you talk with them tomorrow, you want to see if you can get them in here for a meeting? Awesome, thank you.
First reading.
Thank you. All right, new business, Gloucester Code of Ordinance, proposed amendments, first reading, discussion, interaction. Council has 2 proposed ordinances. First, for the regulation of use of cannabis in public places, and second, penalties for violations of use ordinance. These documents have been forwarded to council and reviewed by the solicitor. If council is ready, these documents can be read or described in detail by the solicitor and then classified a first reading. Part 3, general legislation edition, chapter 154, cannabis use in public places. After read. Read.
Want me to review it?
We can either read it in full, or
Alright.
the solicitor, I'm sure, wouldn't have a problem explaining it in enough detail so that the gist is.
Want
And
me to
again,
read it
there's
first?
copies if anybody's interested.
No, we need,
We can just explain it for first reading, you can't vote on it.
Right.
After a public hearing and a second reading. You're all familiar with that process, right?
Yep.
So, this legislation was actually worked on between myself, the clerk, Captain Fay, and the planner. So
Can you turn on your
Oh,
microphone?
I thought it is on. Is this on?
there you go.
This is a piece of legislation that was worked on by myself, Madam Clerk, Captain Fay from the police department, and the planner, along with the legislation regarding the ordinances for the location of facilities, which you talked about briefly, which that's gonna be handled in a future date. But right now, this is strictly an ordinance prohibiting the public use either by vaping or smoking cannabis in public places. And the law allows any city or town to prohibit that activity in public places, even though it is allowed legally, just wouldn't be allowed to smoke it in a park where the kids are playing, or smoke it in front of City Hall, or vape it in any public place. And so the description of public places just is broadly as we could make it, so that people wouldn't be walking down to the pavilion, and there's a big gathering with kids, smoking or vaping cannabis. I mean, it's your decision, but that's what the proposal is. And if the violation is, the law allows different violations. You could actually make it a penalty up to $500 or a sentence of up to 30 days, but that's not realistic in life. And the proposal is the first offense is a $100 fine, a second offense is $150. That was discussed with the police department, Captain Fay. It's kind of, the police department would be enforcing this. They'd be writing a ticket like any other ticket. So that would be the process. So public places is just make it clear, is described in a very broad way, you know. Public buildings, public parks, public facilities, including sidewalk, walkways, public parking lots, so that this activity, although it's legal, would not be allowed in public places. And that's the purpose of it. And that was what was requested, that's what was drafted, that's what's being read tonight, or at least described. If anybody has questions about that, we're happy to do that.
Can we change some of the things on here tonight for the reading or not?
At the public hearing.
At the public hearing,
There
you
will
can.
be a public hearing.
Can't change it now.
Can't change it
where
now.
Everyone could comment.
So, but if there's some, you can, at the public hearing, you can talk about it, and certainly let us know in advance, and we can, if you want some things that potentially be able to roll out modifications.
Just let you know, or
Let the clerk know, and then she'll circulate it among the group that did this. Keep in mind that this version is essentially very similar to many other versions that have been adopted in other cities and towns already. So it's not like we're creating a wheel here. We looked at various towns that already had it, and we looked at the state law, like we decided among us to make it only the $100 penalty with the $150, because that's a realistic thing. The police not gonna be arresting people and charging them with a petty misdemeanor. Does that all make sense to people?
Yep.
Any questions about that? That's what it does, that's what it does. So after the process would be after tonight, this thing gets scheduled for a public hearing at a future meeting where anybody can talk about it, anybody can make modifications within the constraints of the state law that allows us to make it. And then the council can vote to adopt those changes, and that can all be done at the public hearing. And then if the second reading's not ready, if we make any significant changes, even if we schedule a second hearing on the same day, the second hearing will be moved to another date so we can make the changes so we have a clean copy for, does that make sense to everyone here? Anyone have questions about that? So that's really it, Mr. President, members of council, members of the public. Again, this was a group effort. This was not just me working on this alone.
I just wanted to clarify, our process is through our charter, right? How to amend our code. Typically, and I don't believe it refers to a second reading, more or less. I think after the first reading, this is the introduction to the public of the ordinance. And then the motion will be made to set the public hearing. At the public hearing, before the close of that, I believe amendments could be made then.
Right.
We don't necessarily have to have yet another meeting, do we?
No, you don't need another meeting. I'm just suggesting to you that if there are numerous amendments at that public hearing,
Sure.
and it's gonna be requiring some redrafting. I don't wanna try to vote on something all chopped up at that meeting.
Sure.
I'd rather have it come back to you at another meeting clean.
And that makes-
Theoretically, at the end of the public hearing, a vote would be made on this if there's no significant changes or the changes are minor. And I think that's what the clerk is referring to.
So we need to declare this as the first reading tonight?
It's declared, it's been explained. If there's any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah.
You don't have to read it verbatim as long as it's been explained. The penalties have been explained, the prohibition, vaping and smoking have been explained, and public places have been explained. Broadly as we could define it, we defined it. That's what we did. Parking lot, alleys, buildings.
get a motion?
You gotta set a public hearing, right?
Yeah, typically, well, you'll see in your notes, typically we declare that the public hearing is complete, and then on the next item is a public hearing.
You mean declare the first reading is complete?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to declare the first reading complete for the proposed code of ordinance edition of chapter 154 cannabis use in public places.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. B, Part 1, Administration Legislation, Chapter 1, General Provision 1 through 15, Specific Penalties, Addition of Cannabis Use in Public Places. So, we've already done the introduction now. So
Right, but Mr. President, I'll just interrupt. There's actually the town has an actual penalty provision.
Yes.
That's a separate freestanding ordinance where it says what the list is. So that's a separate piece of legislation. I've already indicated to you that we made a decision that that would only be a first offense of 100 and a second offense of 150, and that is on that's the second piece of legislation.
And that's also right over there if anybody wants to grab one of those as well.
And that's all there is to that. That's exactly the limitation of it.
All right, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to declare the first reading complete for the proposed amendment to the Code of Ordinance, addition to Chapter 1, General Provisions 1 through 15, Specific Penalties.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, now the set for the hearing date, discussion and interaction, which is Part 3, General Legislation, edition of Chapter 154, Cannabis Use in Public Places. If the first reading was completed.
I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for March 16, 2023 for consideration of an amendment to the Gloucester Code of Ordinance, Part 3, General Legislation, edition of Chapter 154, Cannabis Use in Public Places.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Part 1 of the Administration Legislation, Chapter 1, General Provisions 1 through 15, Specific Penalties, edition of the Cannabis Use in Public Places. If first reading was completed, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to set a public hearing for March 16, 2023, consideration of an amendment to the Gloucester Code of Ordinance, Part 1, Administrative Legislation, addition to 1 through 15, specific penalties relative to cannabis use in public places.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Boards and commissions appointments, planning board, discussion, interaction, position number 6, 1 expired 5-year term to expire 3/31/2023. Clerk's office received a recommendation from the chair. The recommendation was made from a recently filed talent bank application. The clerk's office received a voter registration today which could qualify that candidate in 30 days before they can be considered to hold that position. The chair indicates she has reached out to the candidate and the person's issue will be appointed. Would council like to table the appointment?
Make a motion to table the appointment to position number 6, planning board.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Position number 7, 1 expired 5-year term to expire 2/28/2028. This position is for the term of Stephen Clifford. Said term is due to expire at the end of February. The chair has indicated that Mr. Clifford wishes to be reappointed. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Stephen Clifford to the planning board, position number 7, for a 5-year term to expire 2/28/28.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, number D. Letter D. Letter D. Board of Contracts and Purchases, award bid IFB number 2022-07, Picnic Pavilion. Discussion interaction, the Board of Contracts and Purchases submitted the following recommendation to council. To Gloucester Town Council, Will Worthy President, from Adam Messino, Finance Director. IFB 2022-07 Picnic Pavilion, date 02/15/2023. Town Council previously authorized the Town Planner, Karen Scott, to go out to bid for a delivery of a pavilion to be installed at Gloucester Memorial Park. The Town Planner prepared the bid specifications and opportunity was advised via the town website as well as via bidnetdirect.com. The board and contracts and purchases met the January 10th, 2023 to publicly open the bids received. Please refer to attachment 1 for the tabulation of the bids received in response to this opportunity. At the bid opening, the Board of Contracts and Purchases voted to refer the bids to the town planner for review. The Board of Contracts and Purchases met again on Monday, January 30th, and reviewed the purchase of the pavilion with the town planner. Town planner Karen Scott indicated that she and the DPW director, Dremel, had reviewed each of the responses to IFB 2022-07 and recommended to the board that with the bid to be awarded to Coverworks with alternate number 2 all-steel cupolas and alternate number lower upper tier lattice while preparing for the February 16, 2023 town council meeting. Town planner Karen Scott realized that there was a simple error in her recommendation to the Board of Contracts and Purchases at the January 30th, 2023 meeting, and that she intended to recommend the board to accept the bid from Coverworks with alternates 1 and 3 as opposed to alternates 2 and 3. Given that another Board of Contracts and Purchases meeting was set for February 15th, 2023 to consider amending the original motion from the January 30th, 2023 meeting. At the February 15th, 2023 Board of Contracts and Purchases meeting, the board voted to amend the motion from January 30th meeting to now recommend to the Town Council that Council award IFB 2022-07 to Coverworks, 11800 East 9th Mile Road, Warren, Michigan. The total award for that was $113,075, which breaks down as follows. $97,450 for delivery of the specified pavilion, as well as $5,250 for alternate number 1, 3 all-steel cupolas, and $10,375 for alternate number 3, lower and upper tier lattice. This purchase will be funded through a hospitality, tourism, and events placemaking outdoor and public space capital improvements grant from Commerce, Rhode Island, which has already been awarded to the town. The total grant amount is $150,000 with no cash or in-kind matching requirements whatsoever. After purchasing the pavilion, the remaining grant funds will be used to set the concrete floor for the pavilion and purchase picnic tables, respectively, Adam Messina. End of memo. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to award IFB 2022-07 picnic pavilion to Coverworks for the bid price of $113,075 for a specified pavilion with extras alternate number 1 and alternate number 3.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Approval to proceed with a request for qualifications, public water feasibility study for Chepachet Village, discussion interaction. Council's received a request from the town planner, from Karen Scott, town planner, date February 13th, 2023. Request to initiate bidding process. The town received a site readiness grant from the Rhode Island Commerce Corporation for $40,000 and a municipal infrastructure grant from the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank for $85,000 to conduct a public water feasibility study for Chepachet Village. The study will comprehensively analyze several alternatives for providing portable water to the village, including, number 1, extending the Pasco Utility District service into Chepachet. 2, installing a standalone community groundwater supply, treatment, storage, and distribution system capable of providing portable water service to Chepachet Village. Number 3, installing and developing several smaller new water supply wells to serve businesses in the village. Number 4, installing point of entry treatment systems on existing private wells currently used to provide water to individual structures within the village. This grant requires no cash contribution from the town. I am requesting permission to release the attached request for qualifications and a memo. Discussion.
So I had a question for Karen. So just so it's clear that everybody, this is just for a feasibility study, correct?
Yeah, to look at those 4 different options.
That was my
Any
question.
questions? Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the town planner to release a request for qualifications for a public water feasibility study for Chepachet Village.
Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Authorization RI Decentralized Wastewater Improvement Grant, discussion and interaction. Council has received a request from the town planner. 2 town council members from Karen Scott, town planner, February 13, 2023. Reauthorization, RI Decentralized Wastewater Improvement Grant. The town received a watershed implementation grant from the Southern New England Partnership for $250,000 for an implementation plan for Chepachet Village wastewater improvements. Using RIDEM wastewater permit data, the town has identified the locations of known and suspected cesspool locations and the locations and sizes of holding tanks. These types of wastewater management systems are likely to be polluted discharge points impacting the drinking water in the village and the surface water quality in the Chepachet River. In cooperation with local and state partners, the town will conduct a vigorous outreach and communicational program to target the parcels noted above to establish reliable wastewater management systems within the village area. This project will establish a financial incentive for participation, monitoring, parameters, and covenants, and a third-party monitoring entity to ensure long-term success. That grant required a 33% match, which is being satisfied by $200,000 in ARPA funds and limited staff time. There was no cash contributions to the grant from the town. The EPA has just released a complimentary grant program that specifically targets improving decentralized wastewater in Rhode Island. I'm requesting authorization from the town council president to sign the grant application for $465,000. This funding will be used to supplement the original grant, provide better financial incentives for participation, and establish the funds for the first several years of third-party monitoring to ensure long-term success of the program. This grant does not have a cash match requirement. End of memo. We get a motion, please.
I'll do a motion, but I want to thank Karen for this because
Absolutely.
that's a big deal. That's a lot of money that can go a long way, do a lot of good things on top of what we were hoping to do before. So, thank you, Karen. So,
I don't know if anybody's new to this whole program, but this is amazing for the town.
So I'll make a motion to authorize the town council president to sign a grant application for an EPA Rhode Island Decentralized Wastewater Improvement Grant in the amount of $465,000.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just wanted to make one clarification, it doesn't affect the vote or anything. For the grant that we used the $200,000 in ARPA funds to match, that only had a 33% grant match requirement. This one, for the 465, has none, but you get extra points if you provide matching funds. So the Southern New England Partnership has agreed to let us reduce our match to the minimum for the first grant we got, which would free up $100,000 of money we've already put aside for this to match the second grant to get extra points for match. So it's just kind of moving money from one to the next. It's all part of the same project, but I just want to be clear in case.
But it gets us more points, and those points are...
Yeah, so instead of over-matching on the first, we put $200,000 aside to look at decentralized wastewater improvements in the village, and we used it to match that first grant. Overmatch. When the second one came out, it's essentially for the same project, just to provide better incentives to maybe expand what we can fund. I took $100,000 from the first grant with permission from the grantor, and I'm going to put it towards the second grant. So it's just moving. Essentially, we're taking the same money and trying to leverage it to get more money. Still no cost to the town. Still money we were already going to spend on the project anyway, but taking this 100 and getting 465.
And it gives us a better opportunity to get that grant.
It does. So it doesn't change that the original ARPA money is going to go towards this. It just is trying. So just in case on the grant application it shows it's going to show a match of $100,000. It's just a moving of the money between.
For the same project.
For the same project.
Do we have an ETA on when that finally gets sorted out, when they're going to start?
So this grant they're going to announce, they're hoping to have a start date of June 1st. So I'm kind of holding for, on the other one, just getting a lot of the administrative stuff done before I start it, because I would really like to know if I'm going to have this extra funds, because that would significantly increase what we can do. I think the first grant is going to really focus on outreach, trying to go out to the businesses, the property owners, to see who has these septic systems that are right for new alternative systems that could really make a difference in the water quality in the village. So I think we'll probably start to look to get going on that while we wait on this one.
Is this this like a 4-year or 5-year kind of project?
I think it's, I would say 3.
Okay.
Because it's gonna take some time, because it's gonna involve not only the outreach, it's gonna involve soil sampling, it's gonna involve, getting designs and deciding what type of septic and what kind of incentives are we gonna have, and, you know, and how
Are
we're
they gonna
set
take
up.
a pre and a post of like our water samples
So
of
we
the
have,
river?
so we have pre, we know what it is, we are, on the impaired water body list for a 6.6 segment, 6.6 mile segment of the Chepachet River, and the primary pollutant causing it to go on the impaired list is bacteria, which comes from, the septics. So we know that we have identified the primary cause of what that is, so if we can fix those pollutants, in theory, that should allow then the wetlands downstream to not be overwhelmed by the pollutants that are coming down and be able to filter them out and then make not only our segment cleaner, but all the ones downstream.
And maybe we could get some trout in these rivers up here and they won't die.
Never know. Never know.
Not that I'm, you know, part of that whole thing, but thank you. All right, resident request, consideration of denied property damage claim, discussion, interaction. Council's received a packet of information regarding a property damage claim that was denied by the Rhode Island Interlocal Risk Management, the town's insurance provider. The resident has requested being heard by town council. Mr. Leach? State your address, please.
71 Brown School Road. So, you had the whole package of pictures and all that good stuff. There was a little confusion on dates. The actual date of the storm was the 23rd, which was the Friday before Christmas, so everything kind of slowed down, obviously. But if you're looking at this picture here, you can see the tree was obviously dead, decayed, and there's no doubt that it was on town property. It was within the street. And fortunately, it didn't do a lot of damage. Only a small part of that tree hit the camper and damaged just the door. I mean, it could have done, you know, a real huge amount of damage. But unfortunately, the door, they can't just repair, they have to have a new one made up. And that's kind of where it stands. And it did knock off a vent cap, but that's pretty minor in the big scheme of things. But this second picture, that's basically how I found it when I came home. So it's like, you know, in the letter it said I had cut it up, but there was another tree hanging up in there. So I did, over the weekend, wanted to make sure I got the other tree out so it wasn't kind of hanging there for a while. But that's how I found it. So it was just one of these small branches that hit the door. So it wasn't that big a deal. And then I think you can see in one of the other pictures how it just kind of punctured through. But once you puncture the sidewall, you're pretty much all done. So that's pretty much where it stands. So I submitted the claim. I know your claim form says 3 estimates, but it's pretty much impossible to get 3 estimates on a camper like that. I went down to one guy, he wouldn't even give me an estimate. I ended up in Arlington RV, he gave me an estimate, he's still at the camper down there. If I want to get it back, it's $100 estimate fee just to get it back.
Is Arlington on the state? Do we know that? I think they're the only ones in the state.
And the estimate they gave me does not include shipping the door. Probably having it made out in Indiana and shipping it here. But again, so that's pretty much where I am. So I just wanted to ask for your consideration.
Right, I've spent some time reviewing everything and trying to understand. First of all, I'm sorry that this happened.
I mean,
That's
it happens.
You know, it does, yeah. You know, I guess my concern, our insurance company, you know, wouldn't cover it because it's an act of God, and I know that I know that the guys at our Public Works Department, they try really hard to stay ahead of everything, and unfortunately, they weren't aware of this ahead of time. And I think that's you know, that's my issue. You know, we can't, you know, I mean, we could drive around all day kind of thing and look at
There are a lot of-
trees in distress
Yeah.
that could go either way. And I guess that's my concern. You know, so personally for me, I'm feeling like if we did this, this we'd never stop doing this. So that's my feeling here. And again, it stinks, and I'm sorry that branch hit your RV.
Yeah, Mr. Leach, I'd have to echo Mr. Arnold's, I feel bad that this happened, but I have to go by, you know, I appreciate all of your information that you provided to us. It gives us a better picture of things. But the fact that, you know, everything that Mr. Arnold said, that, you know, there's no way we could tell that that was going to happen to town. And it's an unfortunate incident, and I wouldn't want it to happen to me.
I don't know if they would even, if I submit it to my insurance company, if they would, you know, cover the deductible.
Well, I think the thing is, if we open up to doing that, then we would, anytime something happens, it would come before us if a tree falls anywhere off our property, and that's not the town's responsibility. You know, I apologize if it happens, but if we can't foresee it happen, like, if you had said, hey, that branch is falling down, and we didn't react to it, then I would say that's our fault.
Okay, well, I just want, you know, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
All right,
Good luck.
thanks.
All right, H, authorization tax collector to participate in support of proposed amendments, RIGL 44-7-28, mobile or manufactured home law, discussion interaction. Council's received a request from the tax collector, 2/14/2023, to Gloucester Town Council from J&H Steer, tax collector, RIGL 44-7-28, mobile or manufactured home law. Town of Coventry is going to submit legislation, amend RIGL 44-7-28, Gloucester, Coventry, and Burville tax lien on mobile or manufactured homes. The current version of the law is that the tax follows mobile home ownership. If the owner does not pay and sells, the new owner becomes responsible for the tax. The proposed amendment is to add -C tax. The taxes may be collected and the lien may be enforced in the same manner in which taxes are collected and the lien is enforced against real estate for the collection of real estate taxes by municipalities in accordance with Title 44, Chapter 9, tax sales with no additional fees, charges, assessments, or penalties other than those provided for in Chapter 9 of Title 44. Most people do clear their tax, but we have too many that owe for a few years. I think this amendment to the law would give the push needed to clear delinquent taxes. Just so you're clear, and the town ends up with a lien on a mobile home we do not own. There is a thinking that a property that the town takes at tax sale, we own it. The town has never foreclosed on a property taken at tax sale. The deed owner can redeem at any time. I do hope you'll support this amendment.
So, I mean, I read all of, you know, your thoughts and what this would entail, and it seems to be, I'm glad you caught this, and I think it's a great opportunity. It seems to make common sense to me, and I appreciate the questions that you answered for me on it, for clarifying, but that's,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
sorry, I mean, with that,
No, go ahead. I was gonna make a motion unless you wanted to.
all of you.
request to state legislators for a proposed amendment to Rhode Island General Law 44-7-28 Glocester, Coventry, and Burrillville tax lien on mobile or manufactured homes in the town to help clear delinquent taxes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would like to mention that, might be, I'd like to add a resolution to the next agenda as well, supporting this. Thank you, Gene.
All right, motion passes. Town council correspondence discussion. Council received sample resolution for the League of Cities and Towns in support of housing development and land use. Support with the resolution on the next agenda. Number 2, an offer to assist with the Memorial Day Parade.
That was a question.
Yeah,
Oh.
so, to that
support.
question, me personally, I'd like to see us put something on there for discussion for a possible resolution at next meeting.
Do you want the resolution for the next meeting?
Yeah,
I agree,
discussion
the
and see-
resolution was in the,
Okay.
so. On that, before we move off that item, I had the opportunity to attend a meeting this morning with the Rhode Island, or with the Leagues of Cities and Towns. And this was the one and only topic, low and middle income housing, affordable housing. Clearly that impacts different communities in different ways. And clearly, I think, you know, that's no different for this town. And so it was an encouraging meeting. 25 out of the 39 municipalities were represented there today. And I think, you know, the goal of the meeting was to try and get the point across that one size does not all fit all. So I think our voices were heard by the new housing Secretary of Housing, and some good dialogue, and I look forward to the next meeting with this group. So,
Yeah, thank you for joining me. So we'll get a resolution on the next agenda. We got an offer to assist with the Memorial Day Parade.
Was that, in your packet? It was from Edna Kent. She was offering to be, at the cemetery. You remember they have a speaker, and she's offering to do that. Except she said we better get the sound system in.
I agree with that. So, you know, we've been gathering information so far as that goes, as far as who can attend. We're getting information from the Gloucester Light Infantry.
I received a packet from the Gloucester Light today with her schedule of when they call people, the permit to use the road, all that type of stuff. So as soon as you tell me who's gonna run the parade, I'll make sure they get all that stuff.
And really, that's the key component to this, is that we can gather all this information, but we really need a point person to be the project manager, for lack of a better term. And I don't know who that would be, but we do need to appoint somebody. Probably at the next meeting, we should come up with a plan, now that we're having a lot of the variables that we need to figure out. What's the
Foster
plan.
with the music as well.
Yeah, so we received some information from the town council president too, as far as like paying for buses and coordinating all that. So.
Maybe somebody watching on the YouTube might want to volunteer.
Yeah, you never could tell.
Great.
I hope so.
Nice.
But you know, in the bigger scheme of things, that's something we really have to figure out. Maybe not just for that too, but other events that happen in town. We really need a point where we rely on volunteers, and our volunteers that we have in this town are second to none. But it's a lot to ask for some of these things, but ask for volunteers to handle these. So it's something we're gonna have to figure out long term as well, who handle these types of things.
This is the bus.
And, so, there's not too many people left from the budget board here, but that's something we'll have to think about next year as well, as funding for the parade. Not that it's a large ticket item, but that's also something we have to contemplate.
All right.
Thank you over there. Your offer to help.
Thank you. All right, department head reports and or discussion. Any department heads wanna come on up?
So that Cheryl gets back in touch.
I've got option.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm hoping to keep it short and sweet, so I'll go ahead. I didn't get to do a full analysis that I want to, that I typically would for the council. But if it's all right with the council, I'm just going to read my memo and go from there. Hello to the council and welcome to the new members that have not yet properly met. I am here today to request that the council consider a moratorium on commercial solar farms. I have provided a packet for each of you that includes some of the tax laws as well as the House bill that passed last year. There are also some news articles pertaining to the issue at hand. I have not combed through all of the articles, but in the next 2 weeks I will be working through them as well as getting input from other assessors. I respectfully request that the council add this as an agenda item for the March 1st meeting. If there are any questions about what I've provided to you, I simply ask that you send me the questions in writing without creating a rolling quorum. You're welcome to email me or put them on a piece of paper and hand it to me. I'll take it any way you want. I want to have your questions answered as thoroughly as possible should this be on the agenda for next meeting. Consideration.
So, obviously I haven't combed through any of this stuff, but
Right.
what kind of challenges or what was sort of what got this
The
going?
catalyst.
Yeah,
So,
the catalyst for this, yeah.
Some of you already are aware, during the talks during last budget season, we're taking our third big hit off the tax roll this year. The state law that was passed does not allow any tax assessor to reclassify land with commercial solar enterprises, so I can't tax them as a commercial enterprise income producing property. I have to tax them residential or whatever their classification was before the solar farm was entered. So we're gonna be losing quite a chunk of change there. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, you're looking at a $3.5 million assessment dollar difference at least.
Okay.
And as you know, we've lost motor vehicles last year and the cars last year as well. So this is now another big one we have coming. But we're basically not getting any benefit from it other than a couple of tangible. I only have 3 tangible accounts because half of them are exempt because they signed on to earlier than the laws, and then some of them are actually exempt properties. We have quite a large one coming into the Rhode Island Convention over on Reservoir Road. That was a pretty sizable one. It's even going to cross into the Barville side of things. Because they're an exempt nature, I can't even tax them. I don't know that I can even tax them as a tangible either, because the company is a exempt organization. So when it comes to nonprofits, I have to do more research into that, because I don't know how it will work for the tangibles, but when it comes to real estate, that means I can't tax them at all for real estate.
There's an answer.
All right, so.
I'm sure I'll have questions as I
Yeah.
pour through this that,
Sure.
you know, maybe we can, share with the whole council next time, but first pass, but
Yeah.
that's quite a bit of assessment dollars that's being
Yeah.
dropped, so.
And that's why I just wanted to at least get you some of the information that I'm working through and combing through. That way you can see where I am right now. It gives you some time to look at it before the council rather than a couple of days. You have, 2 weeks or what have you.
Are we seeing any other towns that are having the same problems with this
It's statewide.
statewide?
Yep, so anybody with, like, Gloucester's gonna have this issue, North Smithfield, Johnston,
Some of the news articles are actually about what some of the hurdles were for some of the towns. They have, as far as I know, haven't tried to get a moratorium to stop it until we can tax them correctly, but they've gotten a lot of pushback for emergency moratoriums because the influx is so high. But like I said, we're not getting any benefit from having solar farms here. We're clearing a ton of trees for no benefit to the town.
Is there any groups getting together to put pushback to the state?
Most of the, I don't want to say all the assessors, but a good portion of the assessors, we all objected to the bill before it was passed. We had to do it a couple times actually because it didn't pass the first time, so this is, it was the second year trying to go through, and it did go through this time. So we are also working with Rhode Island leagues and cities.
Has anybody put a temporary restraining order on this bill?
I don't, at this point, they have not. What I would suggest, if the council, you could amend, when you get to executive session, amend the executive session, add a potential litigation. I can talk about some of the things that are going on. I don't want to kind of let it out there.
Okay.
And certainly the tax assessor can participate in that if she wants to come into the executive session, council's letter. That would be my advice. But that's different than your request. It's just about your question.
Right.
About restraining orders and moratoriums. There's law on
I
that.
have a little bit of experience
Yeah.
putting temporary restraining orders on our governor.
Yeah.
We'll bring that up.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go easy.
Musical chairs, I didn't recognize the place. So.
Glad to have you back, sir.
Thank you very much, thank you. First of all, I got a little gift. I come back to the police station. We had all new lighting put in by the Public Works. They did a tremendous job. That was one of my capital projects for '24. I put in for $24,000, and whether we're gonna have a vendor do it, and it looks like Field of Dreams over there. And that coincides with our security that ARPA funds paid for. We have state-of-the-art surveillance and security systems inside and outside the station now that Matt Ford quarterbacked, and that just was the icing on the cake. It was, we were having a lot of problems, rotted poles, the light bulbs always going out. Now we're going to save electricity. It's just a tremendous job by the highway department. Gary, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Just a couple things is that you might have seen the sign. We have a recruit selection process going on. The last budget process, you gave us authorization to put two in the academy. We wanted to make the academy. We ended up, then we were going to take those two out because of the budget snafu at the end of last spring, and you re-granted me one lateral position. So in this budget process, I asked for the same thing, to put someone in the academy, which is a very, very long process. We're using a very intense marketing and campaign to reach out. There's 27 police departments right now and law enforcement agencies trying to recruit, so it's very difficult. So if we do get successful by the end of this budget process and you approve it, that recruit would go in the academy and then wouldn't be out and wouldn't be available, wouldn't be on the street and on Glocester for mid-2024. So that we're really looking, so we're trying to stay up. It's kind of like our strategic recruitment plan. Very difficult to do, so we want to land the right. If we don't, then we don't. Then we have to go another route. So this is part of that. I just want to catch up to speed because that's in full force. Secondly, before I left, and then somewhat coming back, we advertised for a part-time dispatcher to fill that two shift vacancy. We're working on that, and I think I talked to my liaison. We're probably going to have that for the next council meeting to present on someone that would be interested. Also something with the animal control. If we can advertise, and I'll talk to Don and I'll talk to Adam, we look for a shelter worker. We've had that in the past. We have an animal control officer, our assistant, then we have a shelter worker in case, they can fill in on a Saturday if someone's off. Vicky's doing tremendous. She's our assistant, but she's got a family, so she may miss, these out. We're going to get busier in the spring, and so it won't affect the budget probably because it'll be a lesser rate anyway, so it's not a big deal. But I'll talk to Walter on that, and I'll talk to Don and do that. some interesting stuff. We had this is, the last few weeks is the juvenile going wild type activity. We arrested 4 juveniles that committed some serious mal damage at the GMP. And it's sickening because of all the work we put into that. There were a lot of work by the police department using the new camera system we have over there and some other things, LPRs we use, and we're able to identify them, and they're all going to the juvenile hearing board. They were all, the parents were great and cooperative. Good kids that probably made a bad decision that night. And this is, and I know some know, but we have the best juvenile hearing board in the state, so they're going to get coached through, and hopefully that works well. This is another entry. Last Friday, we arrested a 3rd grader. Our strategy for school safety, and you're probably familiar with John, is you see something, you hear something, or you say something. And this was true. There was one 3rd grader hatched a plan to bring a knife in and stab the school principal. He was pretty slick. They checked his backpack over the last few days. Nothing happened. He secreted it in a stuffed animal, and someone overheard it and talking about it. We were able to get it and prevent, which I think seriously would have been, he would have finished what he had to do. He had the will to do it and the wherewithal to really not get detected by us or the administration up there. So it's been a little, it's just like juveniles going wild. That was up at West Glocester. So it's just, but we took care of it, and it's just, that, and it's something I think it's important that everybody knows we're on top of stuff like that. So, but that's all I have to say, and it's good to be back. Thanks.
Welcome back.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
I see you right there.
Hello. If we could bring up about appointment.
Actually, I asked council if they could add that item to the agenda. I had received a request from DPW to put on an appointment for a driver laborer that Gary's been trying to fill forever, and I inadvertently left it off the agenda. So I was going to ask council to add it to the end of the agenda for discussion only, just to get a feel for what we do from here.
So I'll make a motion to add for discussion only at the end of the regular agenda, appointment to the DPW for a driver/laborer 1.
We have a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other department heads?
I had a question for Ken. We haven't had a chance to talk in a while, or ask questions.
Thank you. I can always count on you.
So my question is, do we have an update on the illegal dumping in West Gloucester?
Yes. The dumping is stopped. It was stopped on the 3rd of this month. Smithfield Pete was told by the current owner of the property that he could store some material on the site. That wasn't the case. It's not allowed in that particular zone. It's not allowed in B2. We don't allow storage of material. We are currently working out some sort of an arrangement with the company who wants to use the property, but they don't, at this point in time, we still haven't gotten all the particulars. There's legal ends that have to be tied up. I have to speak to David, town solicitor, regarding the arrangement that would have to be made to allow this company to come into town. I know Smithfield Pete has a reputation for recycling and reselling product. That's not their intent on the property once they get to the property. But we haven't, I mean, we've only touched the surface here. They are not allowed to dump as of right now. You know, we've stopped that. We're in negotiations with the company. I told them to get back to us with a plan, because it still has to go through planning. If they're gonna do anything out there, plan development review. So there's a bunch of hurdles they're gonna have to go through legally and planning wise before they can get back up there and do what their intent is. I think their intent is to buy the property. It hasn't, you know, it hasn't been sold yet, so, there's still a lot of balls in the air right now. So I'd be remiss to say that, you know, anything's gonna happen right now. As of right now, nothing is happening. And until the company can come into the office and supply us with a plan and show us exactly what they wanna do, then, until then, it's all speculation. So.
And so there's material there now?
There is material there now that had been being dumped. We didn't find out about it until after they had been there a number of times. But they were cooperative when I spoke to the owner of the company. They were cooperative, they cooperated, they haven't dumped since February 3rd, and we don't expect them to do anything until we come to some sort of arrangement.
Okay.
Okay? But I will update council as we go along here. And we'll see what they want to do. But as of right now, they haven't come back to me with anything. So as of right now, it stands no dumping.
Oh, thanks, Ken.
You're welcome.
Excuse me. I need my glasses.
All right. At this time, open forum. Oh, boards and commissions, sorry.
With the EDC. I'll be really quick. I just wanted to thank you for approving our nominations tonight. We have a full commission for the first time in a very long time, and a lot of good energy in the room, so I think it's going to be a pretty productive year. And we wanted to thank you for passing along the historic Patchett pamphlet. We brought it to our last meeting last week, and we think it holds a lot of value. We think it'll hold a lot of value in our branding efforts that are presented in the marketing campaign that Ashley had brought over the summer, and then I think it's been continued a few times. So we wanted to request that the marketing campaign is placed back on the agenda if possible. I don't know if that's something that the town council is still open to. It was a use of ARPA funds to sponsor town branding, to engage a marketing firm and sponsor
No, it was removed from the table at one point.
I have it marked on that spreadsheet, it's marked as in process. And I described that a bit in the finance director's report.
I think what happened was we were at the very end of the giving out all the money, and we weren't sure if there was money available, so.
We will be reviewing there's a future item coming right up front, to review all of the ARPA, what's been spent, what hasn't, right? And so what can be moved from one column to another, what isn't gonna get used, which we now have a clear idea after over a year. So I think we can.
Yeah, that makes sense. We would love an opportunity to submit that presentation again, just to get that info.
That brochure I gave you was from, I don't know how many years ago, but that came from our town historian, and it was very useful back then, so
Yeah, and we
nice
think
to
it
see
would
it.
be really useful and kind of character, because town history is kind of.
If you need more history on it, she's your lady.
And also, in an effort to build the base of businesses on the EDC website, we've published, you'll see hopefully, this week, next week, and the following week, an ad in the bargain buyer. So anybody that owns a business, they can just scan the QR code and get registered up on the site. So.
Thank you. Any other boards and commissions? Okay. Open forum. I have something today. I was brought up to me about the lights being on all night long at the GMP. Gary, you wanna? There's a programming to those lights.
We have cameras over there for security.
Yep. That did their job.
It's all dark.
Yep.
You're not gonna see anything.
Okay.
So it's either, you get one or the other. You get
Okay.
security
So those aren't IR cameras at all? Or their distance for the IR is too short?
The camera's on the snack shack, and you're looking across the street over to the park.
Yep.
And the, excuse me, basketball court. It's quite a distance.
Yeah. Are they IR cameras? Infrared? Like they see in low light?
It's not as good, the lighting is more, it's like the police station,
Right.
you know, and with that lighting there, it's like, our security just jumped up 100 times, and that's the way to the GMP, and that helped us get where we need to be on that last issue.
The reason why I ask is sometimes those cameras can use IR blasters, which is it's not like a traditional light. You don't see anything, but the blaster illuminates as far as the camera. We just had somebody,
You'll get something, but you're not gonna get it without the lighting, you're not gonna get.
the clarity and the,
Yes.
right.
You're gonna get something with that camera.
Yep. Do we have it was somebody that was interested in the cost of who's gonna be paying that lighting bill?
It's one LED light.
One LED light. Okay, thank you.
It's on the pole, the new pole, I put up in front of it.
Okay.
New playground.
Anybody else for open? You got somebody? Thank you. Edna Kent, come on up. You're the next contestant.
Well, it sounds like we've got our hands full with the Memorial Day parade. And we need all the help we can get. I must say that when we began to review on what these people had done with the Gloucester Light Infantry and their very meager membership, it was amazing to think that they were able to pull this off as many years as they had. They did a wonderful job, even at the last when they were having such troubles. But we have to go on from here, and we're going to need all the people we can possibly get to come in with a meeting of the minds, not necessarily you go out and do this, you go out and do that, but a meeting of the minds to say, oh, I know somebody that could do that. I could call that one. I could help with that one. You know, this is the type of thing that we need. But we need a lot of people. Many people know possibly their neighbors that could do some of these little jobs that we have discovered that these people were having to do. But we need the help. We need it now. Because when we start to ask people from outside, like the bands and the schools and so forth, we've got to find them. We have to get the permission. We have to know that they are available when we need them. But if we don't do it now, we're going to be in trouble. We just need the help. I need also, because I want to say right here and now, I am not going to be a coordinator over the whole thing. And I know Jeannie Fetto is not either. We need somebody that can run back and forth and make sure that everything is done. The line of sight when it comes to the line of march, to be able to check that out and make sure that everyone is doing what they should be doing. But they need to know these things. You've got to understand what this is all about and where the parade stops and all the things that we need to do have got to be done right away. We need a couple of clergymen. Maybe we can get one, but we really need two. And as a matter of fact, with a coordinator, we think, after having talked with Monique, who had been doing this for years with the Gloucester Light, I think we need two coordinators. One in the beginning to start the parade, and another one at the cemetery. So with that, I would encourage and hope that within in the people here and the people that you all know, that if there's someone that can help us, we need to make a meeting time, several meeting times, as a matter of fact, a meeting place, probably here. But we do need to do it, and we need to do it soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
And next we have Stacy Swift.
I have 2 or 3 live mic.
Hot microphone.
Stand back a little bit. I have 2 or 3 concerns. First of all, a few days ago there was an article in the Journal regarding lack of recycling, and it mentioned that the communities that recycle best wind up financially better off, that their fees are reduced. So I'm not sure exactly, it didn't give a list of the towns, but maybe we should do better. The other thing is that I find that we have 2 Ds for Tuesday. I'll use the polite recycling, not the 4-letter D word, and Dino's, since we all get, people my age get that discount, so we combine our trips. It's a strategy. And anyway, but I think that in at the recycling area that there should be more compartments to sort the different categories of trash. That's my observation. Another thing is that I'm wondering, in the long run, if it might be more economical. It would, you might not like to pay for a contractor to pick up your trash, but think about this. For one thing, a small amount of fuel to get there, your time, more emissions, you know, and so it's, now Foster has to do that because they don't have a recycling area, so they are forced to have a contractor. And they apparently, it works quite well. They don't, their taxes are pretty close to ours. And the last point is, I was wondering whether there's any recycling taught. I got a call from the Glocester School Department this morning that there's the health teacher teaches it. So I don't know if it's, you know, how that can be extended. I mean, at least the kids are exposed to it. So this is some questions, and I'm not sure if some people would have a comment at this point. Would anybody want to add something? Well, I guess that's it. I think that is something, though, we should keep an eye on, because, oh, one more thing. They mentioned that Rhode Island and New Hampshire, the 2 of the New England states that don't have a recycling bottle bill. Connecticut and Mass do. And so for that reason, perhaps we're a little careless at discarding bottles. And maybe that might be, they have to pay a deposit and then you get it back again. It might make for less clutter as far as bottles are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let's seek to convene to close executive session. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry, Charlie, didn't see your hand.
I'd like to continue with open forum, please.
Yeah, come on up.
Charlie Wilson, I live in the Patch Village. Been there 17 plus years. Speeding has gotten worse than ever. Nobody's doing anything about it. Police are trying to do the best they can with what they have. I give them a lot of credit, but it's just crazy. I happen to have a speed gun. They come in through at 50 miles an hour, especially the trucks. It's crazy. You'll see them with the jake brakes trying to slow down for the rotary. They're hitting that rotary at outrageous speeds. Not to mention, you try to cross the street, they're not stopping at the crosswalk.
Is that coming into Chepachet or?
Both ways.
Both ways.
Both ways. It's out of control. We need to get that speed limit slowed down. I did an investigation years ago. I went to every other historic village and town in the state. They all have state roads. They all have 25-mile-an-hour speed limits enforced. It's time we do it before we have someone killed.
So propose when you get in closer to the rotary?
Town hall to the rotary at least.
Yeah. Was it now 35?
35. And they're
hitting
screaming.
50.
They're screaming.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
I was coming into Chepachet and there was the big Cisco truck filling up the dollar store, and a car came right screaming. I like literally was like in the grassy area at the church.
It is, it's crazy. It's so, right, it's just, someone's gonna get killed. And then we're gonna say, well, we should have.
We're gonna need probably the state, or maybe we can
They've
step up
done
police
several
presence in that
studies,
area.
they know the amount of traffic we have coming through,
Yeah.
they know that people are speeding. I've gone to the state, I've, even, I've asked the DPW, I don't get anything out of them. It just needs to be done. We need to put a plan together and get to the state and get them to realize.
Have you reached out to Jess or Chip?
Can I just add something? That's the state traffic commission, because it's a state road. We've been to them a couple times on that, and it got denied. Senator Fogarty, this has been a couple times. I've been here a while since we've done that, so.
This has been denied by the state, the
Yeah,
reduction
right,
of the.
they're not gonna drop that to 25.
This is what we gotta change, is their mindset. They wanna make this a highway. It's up to them, it'll be 55 miles an hour, and they'll say they don't care. It needs to change.
But we try to give as much, the guys are always posting up over there and.
They do.
And as much as possible, but we have 56 square miles too that we have to worry about. And the Rotary is a traffic calming, strategy concept, and, I don't see that 40 miles an hour, it's impossible. My car can't go 40 miles an hour through the Rotary. It's traffic calming, that's what it's built for. We don't have any accidents in there, unless it's late at night, intoxicated, and he does 100 miles an hour and he hits the building. That's happened. But on a day-to-day basis, that strategy of the Rotary is to keep everybody slowing down. And the strategy also is to reduce accidents. I could probably count on my hand how many, and they're only minor fender benders. So if you had an intersection there, red light, which we didn't want there, you'd probably have more of a problem. And you'd have traffic back up past Dino's. This is not a stagecoach town anymore. It's a interstate, and it's not built for the traffic that comes down. I'm gonna give you a little piece of information. I know what the traffic count goes through there. In a 4-week period, you're probably getting 400,000 cars go through. Some are back, why, back and forth. And I know that, because of what we do, I have some things I do over there, so, for public safety, all right? So, and I know exactly what goes through there. It's an unbelievable amount of traffic, and that's good for your businesses, so that's great.
Well, if they would stop.
Right.
They're not stopping.
Well, Kevin
Trust me.
Kitchens is doing all right. But that's what the Rotary is designed for. That's when Walter, all the hearings we did and the engineers came in. The Rotary is to slow that traffic down. We don't want we used to have traffic jams past Dino's. We used to have traffic down 100 for half a mile. We have to put an officer out there. I have to change the light back then, whenever. But that's the concept of the Rotary. It's traffic calming and reduce accidents. I can count on my hand how many accidents, and if it's an accident, it's great. Other than some craziness that happens late at night. I mean, that's, Yes, sir.
Chief, so the speed limit going westbound on 44, once you get through the roundabout, towards West Gloucester,
30.
that was just reduced though, wasn't it? Within the last couple.
30, and then going up to the tree, then it jumps up.
But then it goes to 40, where that used to go straight to 50.
Right, it doesn't anymore.
Trust me, I've met some of the guys over there.
Right.
But
But that's a good spot for us, because you're gonna catch someone jumping the 50 out of the road, 40, 50, so.
But that had to be approved by this state
That was
commission, but
right.
going through actual
Right.
Main Street,
We could try again,
We-
and I'll,
this
if
is-
you, if you do, and we get Chip involved, and
I-
I'll try again
Yes.
to get it to
Just
25.
just a scenario, I mean, I live there, I hear it. I can hear a truck come through the rotary, and he's 15 speeds. He's in 10 speed at my shop, leaving the rotary. What speed is he going? Night after night after night.
I'm not gonna
Again,
disagree with it.
I know you guys are straps, I have nothing.
We're not, we get out there all the time.
Yep.
And and it's almost, we have too many posts over there, because I like to see the whole town get covered. You know,
Yes.
we have west, east, and.
You've got so much territory with,
It is.
with so few people, so, yeah, I have nothing against you
But
guys
it's
at all.
tight,
trust me.
it's congestion, that's our
It is.
metro area up there.
Right,
That's
it
metro.
gets narrow, it gets when there's parked cars out there and everything, people gotta slow down while they're going through there. They have to.
I'm through there 10 times a day, and I see, but you're gonna get some stuff. We've had people go through at 100 miles an hour, no
Oh.
question about it. That's happened at late at
Yeah,
night.
and
But
that's
we've
later-
got-
That's not
That's
gonna
the
kill
craziest.
anybody on the sidewalk at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
But, whoa.
But it's, yeah, and just, it gets some craziness
This
at
is
2, 3, 4 in the morning, so.
Okay.
but, Okay?
Thank
That's
you.
what the Rotary's designed for, to slow
Yeah.
that down.
Right.
But I'll go back to the commission and I'll pitch it again, if you guys, if the council consents to a request, and I'll go down there and pitch it for you.
Appreciate that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie. Anybody else for openings? All right. Seek to convene a closed executive session pursuant to RIGL 42-46-5A to collective bargaining. Discussion, vote, interaction by town council, and a motion to adjourn. Close.
So, I'll make a motion to convene the executive, closed executive session pursuant to RAGL 42-46-5A to collective bargaining, and I would also like to add potential litigation for discussion, vote, or other action by town council.
I'll second.
Can we poll the council, please?
Aye.
Yep. Aye. Aye.
5-minute break, thank you.
Oh my God. Good job so far.